Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of WSO Live. My name is Patrick Curtis, CEO and founder of Wall Street Oasis, for those of you that are new here. It is a little bit before noon Pacific time on, is it Wednesday? Wednesday, April 26th. So the way these typically work is we're streaming on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and I think IG. What I'll try to do is just open up everything for questions. If you want to put your questions in the comments, for most of them, I think they'll feed through here. I'm on StreamYard, kind of streaming across all of those platforms. But yeah, feel free to just ask questions, anything related to interviews, whether it's investment banking, private equity, hedge funds, prep, career prep, networking. Happy to be here and kind of just provide as much value as I can over the next 30 minutes to an hour. Sometimes it goes an hour, sometimes just 30 minutes. Do have some exciting announcements this week, and I'll share screen kind of when I think the time is right. So if you are interested in breaking into investment banking, this will be particularly relevant to you. We're launching a new program, so I will jump into that, but I'm going to give people a few more minutes to kind of trickle in. Hi, Mohammed. How are you? How's your day been? How's your week going? So some things I'm seeing in the forums or some just exciting stuff. In general, we have, from Wall Street Oasis's perspective, we have a lot of new courses coming out. So we have a restructuring modeling course coming out over the next couple of weeks. We have an analyzing financial statements course that's coming out also in the next more like 4 to 8 weeks. That's more for like diving into 10Ks, 10Qs, understanding how to like dissect the MD&A sections, understanding, how to look through an S1 and stuff like that. Here's a good question from Victor. Does having a middle office internship automatically mean you're locked out of front office for an initial job offer? Great question, Victor. So it doesn't mean you're automatically locked out. It means your odds are incredibly low. So however you want to, whatever locked out means, the reason the middle office internship, it's not that the middle office internship locks you into only getting middle office offers. It's that the firms that are already have the front office interns, they're not even giving full-time offers to the full 100% of those interns anyways. It's not like they hand out 100 internship offers for front office, and then they hand out 100 offers, and then they go look for another 20 candidates to fill out their analyst pool. Now, in really booming times, that could potentially happen, where offer rates from internships are 100%. But in these times where we're likely headed into a recession, and offer rates from intern to full-time are, I expect to be 20 to 30% lower than a typical year. So looking at closer to 50 to 70% rather than the 70 to 90% at most banks. I would say that it doesn't lock you out, but it just makes it incredibly difficult. Now, even with the middle office position, you're still in a better spot than people who have no finance experience. It also depends on what year you're taking the middle office internship. So if it's a sophomore summer internship, I think you're in much better shape because you could potentially still have that junior summer to get into the front office role. So if you're junior year, it is going to be tough because kind of your junior year internship is kind of like you've already kind of, you're 80% of the way there or 70% of the way there to a full-time offer. So getting that first, that internship end of sophomore year is kind of like the make or break point for most people. It's where there's like the biggest divergence of odds of you getting a full-time offer in front office. So not to be discouraging, it doesn't mean you can't do it. It doesn't mean you can't go middle office and transition internally. It doesn't mean that your career is over or anything like that. All it means is that it's going to be hard right as an initial job offer. It's going to be really hard to jump in there. Sorry, I don't want my camera's blurry. Let me try restarting this, but whatever. You guys can hear me. Can you hear me? I assume you can hear me. I assume my mic is working. Let's see. Omid asks, what are your opinions on the current state of the employment market for new grads? I think it's pretty bad. We recently saw a thread on Wall Street Oasis of a person with an internship offer, or sorry, full-time offer, getting it pulled literally, 3 months prior to their start date now. It's late April. This was a week ago when I saw this thread. So if banks are doing that, it's definitely a bad time to be graduating. Now, it doesn't mean you can't land on your feet. Doesn't mean you can't transition. So like what I always say to people is like, think of the long term. In 5 years, it's probably not going to matter. And for those of you that do get in and you have low bonuses or no bonuses, yes, it's painful, but remember, later in your careers is when you really are going to be making most of your income and most of your money. So you prefer to have a low bonus now than have it when you're like, say, a senior associate or VP, because that's a difference of several $100,000 rather than several $10,000 or $20,000. So let's see what else we got. We got a lot of questions coming in here. Well, let's see. Here we go. This is a lot of questions. Okay, sorry. I'm not looking at Insta or anything. Is anything coming in from Insta? Oh, here we go. I can see it here now. I'll leave it up on the side on my other monitor so I can try to keep track of that. Here we go. Sean asked a good question. I have 4 years of experience where I did not get comparable experience to my peers, not as heavy modeling work, etc. I feel I'm priced out of analyst roles. Would you suggest business school to come back in as an associate? Hey, Sean. Yeah, for this case where you feel like you're just not going to be able to transfer laterally, getting an MBA is a great way to reset and get access to on-campus recruiting and kind of give yourself a really good shot, with the caveat of don't just go to any business school. Make sure you're going to business school somewhere in the top, ideally top 10, if you have to top 20, but even the ones from ranked kind of 11 through 20, make sure they still feed pretty aggressively into IB so that you're not stuck, at some no-name MBA, and then you think that's going to be the game changer for you, and then you end up, $150,000 in debt and no IB offer, and kind of back to where you were. Before you go get an MBA, I would highly, highly suggest you do everything in your power to try and get a lateral position, networking your butt off. If you can save yourself all that money, getting an MBA, and I have an MBA, so I'm a little bit biased pro MBA, but what I would say is if you can get the job you want coming out of your MBA, come in as an analyst for a couple of years, it's a great way to see, hey, do you really want this? And then like that MBA I see is almost like a complete reset. So I rather you get the IB experience prior to the MBA if you can somehow manage to squeeze your way in, so that you can really get a feel of like, this is something I want to do as a career. Because when you come in as an associate, post MBA associates, I'd say most of them end up not making a career out of it. So just be careful about that, because a lot of people assume, hey, I'm totally willing to do whatever it takes to make that $200,000 to $300,000, $400,000. I'm in, like, sign me up. I don't care. But then when they actually live it and they realize, hey, my relationships are suffering. This is miserable. This is really tough. This is super stressful. I'm having to manage analysts. I'm having to manage entire processes, and it becomes really hard. Here we go. Shahir is asking, Patrick, what can I expect in a case study assignment coming up for an equity research role? Provide a company valuation, perhaps running a research report, or maybe just answering a bunch of technical questions for a given problem. I just asked the same question in the WSO forum. So equity research roles, case studies, you're going to be, typically you'll be asked to like write a report, specifying, this is similar to like a hedge fund interview too, like specifying a target price, just like you would do in the equity research role. So it's basically demonstrating that you can do the job before you have the job. So it's like running a detailed DCF, as detailed as you can get, talking about the industry, the dynamics, talking about the competitive positioning of the company, giving, a price target, having good assumptions, being able to back up your assumptions, that type of stuff, so that, you just show them that you can do the analysis and do the work, and that you're a good writer. And I think that's typically what's involved in any sort of case study. So sometimes they'll ask you, they'll give you the stock. Other times they'll force you to kind of pick it on your own. See what else can we talk about here. Question from Thato. Would love to know how to transition from Big Four into non-accounting roles in venture capital and private equity. Well, venture capital and private equity are super different. Venture capital being super early stage, PE being more established businesses, and you got growth equity in between. The non-accounting role, so like the typical answer for that is like go banking first to get, if you're looking PE. Venture capital, less so. Banking is less of a prerequisite for VC. But VC is much more about like how integrated you are with the startup community. So do you know a lot of startup founders? Do you have a specific industry knowledge within a specific niche, whether that's SaaS or whether that's industrials, whether that's other kind of, EVs or battery technology, or is there something you have that's unique to you that makes you a good investor in a specific space? And then if you can find a small venture fund that specializes in that, that gives you kind of an edge of potentially landing an investment role with that fund. So, VCs are very idiosyncratic. Private equity is a little bit more structured in terms of how they recruit. So there's like Oncycle recruiting, which, warning to everybody out there, we started seeing that private equity recruiters are already reaching out for 2023 Oncycle recruiting to meet with the analysts once they start in July and August. So I think it's pretty crazy that kids who haven't even started in their investment banking jobs have to be prepping for their private equity interviews that they're going to be having right when they start their job, or even before they even exit training. So watch out for that, because historically it has been September, October's timeframe in terms of like when Oncycle kicks off. This year for private equity, I wouldn't be surprised if it was August, which is just absolutely insane. They're going to be handing out offers that are 2 years away from starting. So it's kind of like NCAA basketball, or like when they're trying to recruit like these kids that are in like middle school or elementary school for like football teams in Europe, like soccer teams in Europe, like signing these kids to like professional development teams when they're, I don't know, 10 years old, 12 years old, if they think they're like a phenom. It's kind of like that. It's like getting earlier and earlier and earlier and more competitive. So just a heads up for those. We do have a private equity interview course for those of you that don't know. I assume most of you do know. Amir will throw up a link to that in the chat. Ski Mask Bro, what's up, Ski Mask Bro? I love your videos. Saw them recently. I was cracking up. Do you think MBAs are still worth it for current IB and PE professionals? And the MBA requirement for PE promotions going down? We'd love to get your thought, life experience, 2-year break, etc. Man, it was great 2 years. It's a great 2 years. I look back on my 2 years getting my MBA really fondly. I went to Wharton back in 2008 to 2010, so the world was like collapsing. But for me, it was still a blast. I think a lot of my classmates were a little more stressed because obviously recruiting went to shit during while we were at school. I think personally, if you're paying full ticket price, you're not getting any sort of like tuition assistance and or merit scholarships or anything like that, I think it's a little bit tough to justify it. But like, so what I always say is like, see if you can get to where you want to get to, like whether that's a specific fund or whatnot, before kind of going the MBA route. Unless you're like, hey, I'm really not sure what I want to do. I don't know if it's going to be PE. And you want to like explore a little bit more, then the MBA has a lot more value, because you're going to be surrounded by like consultants. You're going to be surrounded by like people who started their own businesses. You're going to be surrounded by people within Corp Fin and from all different types of industries if you go to a top school. So I think that's pretty cool. I mean, the guys that I was sitting next to in business school, started Warby Parker, which is crazy now looking back at it and seeing what they've done. But like, that's the example, like the quality of people that you're around and in the just some of the incredible things they do. So is it worth it? It's a little bit subjective. There's actually a really good thread on this on the forums from Comp Banker, one of the top users of all time. He talked about how the MBA was worth it for him and why. And it's not always financial. As a financial decision, pure financial decision, it's for somebody who's already in IB to PE, it's a little bit tough to justify, especially if you've already been offered like that promotional track. So yeah, that makes it really hard. But for those who are like career transitioners, like wanting to get into IB, or they're consultants, they're trying to make that transition, and they're having trouble on their own, I think I see it as like a great insurance policy, because it's like you're gonna have that you're gonna have a really strong network and just be able to get on the phone with more people easier. So it's just so the question is that worth it to you? Kind of depends who you are and how comfortable you are doing that networking on your own. So depends, man. Hard to say. It's a really personal question. But hopefully that's gives you a little bit of context. Let's see here. Give me a sip of my tea. I'm in my junior year working in a boutique specializing in X industry will convert full-time on a lateral to BBMM. Will subpar grades be an impediment? Yes, subpar grades will be an impediment. So yeah, it's just how it is. But any advice on using this specialization to lateral? Yeah, if you can find a bank, bulge bracket, or group within the bulge bracket or middle market bank that specializes in that specific industry, then that's going to give you a leg up. So it may help offset some of that, especially if you already have a full-time offer coming there. But I would kind of be warming your network through the summer so that you're not like getting the full-time offer and then having to put that boutique on hold for too long. Definitely what I wouldn't do is risk your full-time offer thinking you're going to get another offer. Not this year. So just be careful. I don't know your background. So like, I don't want to tell you like, oh yeah, just, you leverage that and move on, especially if your grades are close to like a 3.0 or around a 3 GPA or, in the 2s even. Like, don't kick a good offer in this economy in the mouth. Like, just take the offer and then you can kind of build from there. I think a lot of people think that like, oh, well, I should be getting a middle market or a bulge bracket offer. A lot of people are networking hard now. A lot of people are doing better at the interviews. There's a lot of materials out there now for everybody. So it's much more competitive. Here we go. What would you choose? Graduate program, London. Okay. Elite independent boutique IB or hedge fund in the team, or hedge fund in the team. Oh, team of secondaries, PE small. So I can't tell what are the options here. Independent elite boutique, and then a hedge fund. Oh, in the secondaries team of the hedge fund, smaller firm or better comp. Ooh. If you don't have IB background first, if the independent boutique IB's deal flow is still really strong, I might actually lean there. When you say smaller firm, it makes me a little nervous on the hedge fund side. Like, what's the AUM? So I'd ask about that. And then how long has the secondaries team been around? So you want to look at like the specifics around that and just like what's your upside and downside in both cases. The other thing I worry about the hedge fund and the secondaries team is it's a little bit kind of siloing you, pigeonholing you rather, pretty early in your career. Like if you're just coming out of school. So that's the other reason I might lean a little more towards the independent boutique in IB. Surprising that the comp's better. But yeah, I think in London is pretty rough. The comp is pretty rough in general. Real quick. So the announcement that we were going to make, or I wanted to kind of take some time to quickly go through a new program. We've been running for over a decade, but now we're running in a kind of under a new brand called WSO Academy. And so WSO Academy is a 12-week program. I figured I'd share my screen and kind of go through this to give people kind of an introduction. If I can find it here on my screen. Here it is. Can you guys see that? Oh, let me stick that out and then I'll hide it and I'll try again. Okay, I don't know why it's putting me up in the corner. There we go. So we're launching, WSO Academy. We've been doing this for over a decade, but we're formalizing it into a 12-week program in terms of all the stuff we do with Wall Street mentors, all the stuff we do with our courses, specifically, hundreds of hours of courses, the exclusive networking resources and community we have. We're tying it together with like an accountability coach to make sure you get a job in high finance. So we're launching this. We're keeping it super small to start because, there's a ton of people like already on the wait list, but we wanted to basically have it be, under 10 for this next cohort so that we can make sure we're delivering awesome value. If you are interested in getting on that wait list, the applications are going to open soon. So it'd be good for you to get on that if you are interested. To be honest, we're targeting more like the freshman, sophomore groups because to us, that's the group that has the most time to work with so we can make the biggest impact. So just real quick, in terms of how it works, see if I can scroll down here. Here we go. So this is just saying how like the competition is super tough. Coming through us, the odds of getting in just dramatically increase. Basically what we've seen with all all the thousands of candidates we worked with over the last decade. In terms of the pillars of the WSO Academy and kind of how we're going to be adding value to you, we have basically 10 pillars, all about just making you a more competitive candidate. So that's everything from crafting your credibility. That's just includes a full resume rebuild, LinkedIn profile revamp, so that you can meet like the super high expectations that are in high finance. We also grant you an internship through WSO, the Finance Research Internship Analyst Program, which helps actually build your resume. So if you're struggling as a freshman or a sophomore and you're like, hey, how do I build my resume? How do I make it look finance-y to help land interviews? That's what the Internship Edge does. It helps you kind of become more competitive there. Third pillar would be the networking map. We have a templates, software, everything in order to help you kind of be more efficient when you're trying to build out your network, and make sure you're doing it the proper way with the right templates so that you get the highest response rates and conversions from outreach to specifically the informational interviews, which then leads to actual interviews. Technical masterclass is kind of making the technical questions look easy, making the hardest technical questions look easy. That's going to be more specifically, how do you answer the most common questions, technical questions? How do you understand the concepts around the specific questions that are kind of tweaked? So it's not always like, tell me how a $10 drop in depreciation affects the 3 statements. They change those numbers every time. So you can't memorize it. You actually have to understand the concepts behind it. And that's what the technical masterclass does, is make sure you're understanding that. Through the other pillars, I think we'll highlight the 7 stories. This is kind of on the behavioral side. We have a very structured approach in terms of how we're making sure you're ready for every single fit question and behavioral question. So we put you through this process with a Wall Street Pro, a head mentor that basically is guiding you step by step to make sure that you have crafted your story the proper way. And so we do this by having you write 7 different types of stories around your background and your experiences, such that when a specific type of fit question is coming up, you know exactly where to go in that interview. So you can basically answer any of the behavioral fit questions with these. Practice makes better. That's just, we're going to drill you and do so many mock interviews, you won't know what to do. And then of course there's a unlimited real-time support. There's 3 hourly, weekly office hours with me, but then also with our head mentors, we have speakers come in to help make sure that you're getting anything answered around recruiting. So if you have an interview coming up with a specific firm, we can get you some inside knowledge around that. And more specifically, the company database access. So the 8th pillar allows you to get access to over 35,000 interview questions by firm, by group. So that really helps. The specifics around knowing what's coming up for your specific interview. And so I think that's a really nice edge. And then you get full WSO course library access. This is hundreds of hours of online content across not just investment banking interview courses, but private equity interviews, deal process, DCF, LBO, M&A, financial statement modeling, Excel, PowerPoint, restructuring, you name it. Over 500 lessons, just a ton of content. So, is it right for you? Again, we're really going to be trying to target more freshmen and sophomores because there's more time. It doesn't mean if you're a junior, we won't consider you, but it's going to be harder because obviously the time is running out once you hit a junior, because recruiting's already pretty much wrapped up at that point. It's unfortunate because we wish we could work with more juniors, but that's just the reality of this. We want to be working with motivated people who like have a good shot. So, it's for you if like you're really motivated, banking is what you want to do. It's for you if you've been applying, you're having trouble, you're getting rejected. Maybe you're at a semi-target or a non-target and you're like, what's going on? Why can't I get any interviews? It'd be for that. Or let's say you're getting some interviews, but you're bombing them, or you're not really kind of ready for whatever reason. We can help you with that as well in terms of all the mock interviews we'd give you. And so we have you can go here, check it out to wallstreetoasis.com/academy. You can hear some of our testimonials, some of our previous members. And then, we'll give you some free resources to join the waitlist. And here's a list of our head mentors that help run WSO Academy. So you get a sense of, obviously, I'm the lead mentor, but we have an amazing team here. These head mentors were cherry picked from our over 1,000 mentors that we have in our database. The ones that are known to go above and beyond for their clients, because we want people in WSO Academy just to be given every single edge possible. So that's my little spiel, my 2-minute spiel on WSO Academy. If any of you are interested, yeah, just drop your email on the wait list in that link here, and I'll throw it up here. So wellstreeters.com/academy. You can read more about it. And yeah, hope to see you on the inside. So that's it for now. I'm happy to answer more questions specifically around, interviews. Here, let's go back to Yui. I don't know if I'm saying your name right. Thanks, Patrick. Follow-up question: will subpar grades be an impediment if I lateral sometime after 1 to 2 years working experience? Subpar grades should not be an impediment on laterals. It's going to be much less of an impediment once you've had 1 to 2 years experience. So yeah, it will become less important. I say that with the caveat of, like, for private equity recruiting, it still might hurt you a little bit, making it a little bit harder. Also wanted to share this thread. So for people who are interested in learning about what's going on with Oncycle recruiting, you can check out the forums. If you go to the private equity forum, you'll see kind of what's going on with Oncycle. So take a look. But yeah, what else? Let's see. Hi, Mariam. Hi, back to you. What's this? How do you begin to remove the Ebitda sale bid projections once assigned to a particular valuation from 2021? It's a good question. That's a good question. I'll stay away from that one. Question on that. I would love to know how to transition from. Okay, we talked about that. Amir, am I missing any here?
Nope. We have a new comment from IG.
Oh, a lot from IG. Okay. I think I'm studying at Simon Fraser in British Columbia, Canada. Do you think I can get to Goldman Sachs or JPM, and how? So this is like kind of a very vague question. I don't know how to answer, because, like, can you get there? Can you get there or not? Like, yeah, you can get there, but how? It's a lot of work. So you're not at a target school. It's going to take a lot of work, and it's not easy. Here's a good question: investment banking career earnings versus private equity. This is interesting because I would say that investment banking has a little bit less volatility in terms of like, how should I say this? It's probably slightly easier to continue on the progression with investment banking if you grind hard. It's a little bit more of a guaranteed thing versus with private equity. I think a lot of times people will stall out at the associate or VP level and have it really tough to get to partner. So it's tough. I think it's a little bit harder in private equity because there's just fewer seats. So I would say, in terms of volatility, private equity is probably more volatile in the sense of there's probably more people pushed out at that middle management level more regularly on a percentage basis. Plus the people in private equity, I think, would be a little bit more like, on average, be people who kind of have planned to be in private equity, and so it's very, very competitive at that middle level trying to get to partner. So I think it's something that's tough. So I'd probably say outsized career earnings for private equity go much, much higher if you get to a partner at a large fund. But the overall median is probably higher for bankers. So average, maybe slightly higher for private equity. Let's see what's going on here. Best tips from your experience to convert an internship with a bulge bracket to full-time experience. That's a good question. This is coming from Aldo TP21 on IG. The best way to convert internships into bulge bracket full-time offer is be early, be late, be as helpful as you can. Really understand, be introspective about your EQ, and be introspective about how you're being perceived of those around you on the desk. Are you being helpful? Are you inserting yourself where you shouldn't be? Are you humble, but trying to be helpful? I think attitude is basically one of the most important things. And then I'm trying to be ready with the, where you can, if you can actually add value to the analyst, meaning like spreading comps for them and doing any sort of technical work, that's a big bonus. But being ready to do all the menial work as well, like compiling a list of XYZ buyers list, or sending around a working group list, dial-ins, not messing up on that and being detail oriented around that, and not thinking that work is below you, and having a positive attitude. That's actually one of the best ways to get a full-time offer is being willing to do the more admin heavy type work without complaining, or doing that. I think because attitude is seen as like kind of the most important. Do you pigeonhole yourself if you enter venture capital out of undergrad? That's a good question. So there aren't many venture capital analyst programs for like right out of undergrad. My worry is if you go to venture right at undergrad, my only worry with that is, coming out of undergrad, you don't really have any hard skills. Banking, I feel like, gives you some hard skills. So whether that's PowerPoint skills, Excel modeling skills. So I don't think it's necessarily that it just pigeonholed you. I just worry that like the main skill in VC is like getting in front of the right people. Anyone can learn like the math around cohort analytics and all that stuff. I just think it's easier once you have that foundation of financial modeling to learn some of that stuff and get technical. Although on the early stage VC side, you don't really need that. It's more like who you know, are you getting in the right deals? Do you know the right people? Whereas on growth equity, private equity side, that stuff actually does matter a little bit, being able to kind of do that deep dive diligence, understanding quality of earnings, understanding Ebitda. So I think going to IB doesn't limit you going to VC as much as starting in VC limits you going to other things. So it doesn't pigeonhole you like for good, like you're done. But it's one of those things where I'd be more worried about like the hard skills you're developing in VC at a junior level. What else we got? Here we go. Should you quit finance and do something that actually provides value to the world? So this is Aniel's question for Gabriel on IG. So I actually think finance does provide a lot of value to the world. Without capital, a lot of businesses can't start. Without businesses starting, people can't be employed. So I think the capital markets have a huge impact on the economy and on people's overall livelihood. So I think you are doing good work. You are benefiting society in a large way. I think there are parts in the past, parts of the banks that have taken value from society, and whether this comes in the form of back in 2008, 2009, in terms of the specifics, MBSs and all the derivatives off of that, and the financial crisis that was caused, for sure. There's that, but there's pockets of finance that actually are adding a lot of value. And so I wouldn't kind of put finance under this large umbrella without really knowing the intricacies of each individual type of role. I think it's unfair to a lot of people working in finance to say that they're not adding value. So that's all I'd say to that. Let's see what else is going on. Yeah, it's funny. People are like, quit finance and go become a software engineer. It's funny, like a lot of the jobs, that software engineer jobs from these startups, they wouldn't exist without finance, right? Venture capital is a form of finance. So just think of that. So, like you go to some other countries where there's no, interest rates are like at 15, 20%. There's hyperinflation. We experienced a little bit of it this past year. And I think you'll realize, like, having a strong capital markets, having an economy that's somewhat, and being in the lucky position that the U.S. is having a reserve currency actually makes a massive difference in terms of quality of life and the structure of the economy. So I think, it's a little bit kind of short-sighted to put all of finance under the same umbrella. So I'd caution on that. What else we got here? Amir, what am I missing? I'm reading a hilarious. I'm 6 years old. I won't read the other part. I only have 3 internships. Is it too late for a shot at Goldman? Any finance bros in Canary Wharf up for a couple of pints? Let's network. So that's from Paulie. Paulie on IG wants to go have some pints. So for anyone that's around right now. I think that's it for now, man. Here we go. Oh, this is actually one last one from AJ. From what I've heard, the application process in London and IB is quite process-oriented and through the website. Is networking essential? Heard some people who got in with zero networking. AJ, great question. It is much more process-oriented in London than it is in the US. But I've done many podcasts and I had many guests on my show where I'm chatting with them from London. And guess where their big break came from? It came from someone they knew. So I would still very much caution you from not building a network and thinking, you know what, there was this group of people or half the class got in without doing any networking. You may have that luxury if you go to the right school, you interview really well and whatnot. But the networking, think of the networking as like, I think people need to start thinking of the networking not as let me build up a bunch of contacts so I can land interviews, but start thinking of the networking as like they're doing you a favor, not just by getting you the interview, but by allowing you to speak about yourself, by asking questions specifically about that firm, about that group, about those specific deals. That's the value from the networking, more so than just like landing the interview. They're allowing you to practice. It's a mock interview for free. So whether you see friends that get in with zero networking or whatnot, you should be doing the calls either way and learning and talking to people at different types of groups. You can't know everything. I still don't know everything. I've been around this for 20 plus years and I still don't know everything about specific groups and specific banks. So the more you talk to people across a wider variety of banks, the more comfortable you are at having those conversations. Guess what? The better you are at interviewing. Guess what? The more people you know across the street. So when shit hits the fan and your firm goes under, oh, Credit Suisse, gone, boom. Guess what? Who's going to be the first people to lateral? Who's going to be the first people to actually land on their feet? It's the people who know the person across the street and who've had those discussions and who have had a couple pints with this guy up on IG. So like my point is, whether you can get in or not with zero networking, it doesn't matter. You should be doing it either way and building connections and relationships either way, and stop thinking of it as so transactional and start thinking of it as like actually building a foundation for yourself of people in the industry that you can learn from, and think of it as more of like, they're seeing things completely differently from what you're seeing things. Network with the people that are at your same level, even at your school. Build relationships with those people, because when you all go out and get your different jobs, they may start seeing something in their group. You can compare notes. You can say, well, what's going on in yours? Like, my work-life balance is horrible. Mine's actually not bad. It's actually really great. We have a ton of deal flow. Hey, we have no deal flow. We're just pitching all the time. You start to really learn a lot more when you do that and when you're comfortable with getting on the phone with people. And I think that doesn't come from just, some people have it naturally, but some people are really, they just despise this. And I say the faster you get over that hesitation to get on the phone with people, the more comfortable you get speaking with them, the better your career will be in all facets, interviewing, opportunities that are shown to you that are never posted on job boards, just new opportunities and new option value to potentially get out of banking when you're realizing, hey, this actually isn't for me. So all of those things I would highly point you to. Don't underestimate all the other ancillary benefits that you get from networking rather than just breaking into your first job. So oh my gosh. This is funny. Is 20% inappropriate to tip our MD from our bonus? People on Reddit seem quite torn on what is the right percentage. What do you think? I'm just going to leave it at this because this is a great comment. Obviously being facetious here. Thanks, Kimberly, for the laugh. I will leave it here. Thanks, everybody. Again, check out WSO Academy if you are interested. If you are junior, senior, we'll look at your application, but for the most part, we are looking for sophomores and freshmen at this point. So we'll look and try to help you out. But that's it for now. Hope everybody has a great rest of the week. Talk soon.